Well, good morning, everybody. To get us started, I want to pick off a few different places across the country that are going to be seeing some very high impact weather here over the next 48 to 72 hours. The animation you've been watching here is kind of a long loop radar animation starting at midnight last night Central Time and going through this morning. It's kind of pointing out a few of these events. Now, first of all, we have the large nor'easter that's going up the East Coast. We're seeing some very heavy snow in the interior. It's been a very challenging forecast right along the coast, and I checked the obs this morning, and a lot of this was still falling as rain. But on the back side of it, there's enough cold air that we're getting these long kind of tendrils of lake effect snow, or at least lake enhanced snow in this area, putting out some local kind of snow squalls. Notice the moisture that came through parts of Texas last night as well. This is the second day in a row we've seen some moisture coming into this area, which is critical to the success of the upcoming crops being planted here, given that this is one of the areas that's still anchored firmly into drought. And I'm in San Francisco this morning, and I've been listening to the rain slam into the windows all morning, and we're just about ready to pick up with some very strong winds in this area as the day goes on. In fact, that's one thing I want to hit right away. I want to show you what these winds are going to look like. We're going to use the high-res NAM, start this off at 7 o'clock this morning, and again, we can already see the strong winds here, but take a look as we play this forward through the middle of this day, how strong the winds are going to be coming into California. The National Weather Service is estimating 50 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts out of this, and while that is happening, strong southerly winds are kind of pulling right into the midsection of the country here, getting pulled into a low that's up in Canada. As we play this forward, we can see the stronger winds from the system coming into the west today are going to move into the Great Basin and eventually begin to emerge out in parts of Wyoming and Montana. But on Wednesday, we're going to see a very large warm sector open in the midsection of the United States under strong southerly winds as this low takes form here coming out of parts of Wyoming into the northern plains. And that's where the big change is going to happen in terms of the wind speed and direction. While high pressure occupies the southeast and the winds on the western side of it just come screaming out of the south, this again is going to open that warm sector, which is going to be quickly replaced by a cold front slicing through. And this is where we start to be concerned about the position of this front Thursday afternoon and evening and what it might be doing in terms of severe weather as it goes over parts of the Mid-South. But before we get there, I just want to show you the size and scale of this next large atmospheric river event. We've got several more of these lined up in the Pacific while the jet remains quite zonal and quite powerful. This is just a view of the water vapor imagery, so you can see where it's originating from, coming from Hawaii and just pushing into California. And that's why their all hazards weather map there continues to show flood warnings, high wind warnings, winter storm warnings, and this is going to be a repeat situation for the coming several days, possibly out to the next couple of weeks. The National Weather Service out of Sacramento did put together just another great storyline of when and where this was going to kind of all occur, including some great information on the snow levels, which could push up tonight into Tuesday, this morning throughout the day on Tuesday as high as 8,500 feet. So the flood watch that's out, just notice here, the valley may get 1 to 3 inches, the foothills 2 up into the mountains up to 7 inches of total precipitation out of this, with the heaviest again coming into the day on Tuesday. So major flooding issues here. I just want to point out again, when you're above 8,000 feet, there's the potential into the Sierra Nevada of grabbing another 5 feet of snow, and there's those winds we just mentioned. Now, how many more of these are we expecting to see? Because the newest 10-day forecast from the European model continues just to show that moisture slamming into the west, coming into the Great Basin, hitting parts of the Four Corners states. And this is mainly from the system leaving today, but here's the severe weather we're going to be talking about on Thursday. But I want to take note that there remains a larger area, and while we do expect some moisture to get into this region, there is a larger area in the Central Plains that is not expected to be wetter than average. You can also see parts of the Pacific Northwest are expecting to miss this as well. But my original question was, how long does this last for California? And the CPC provided some guidance on this. Their outlook for the risk of heavy precipitation through the 27th of March continues to keep this region under a high risk. And the next large event will likely be coming through on the 21st or 22nd into this area. So let's go have a look at it here. I'm just going to play forward for you the 0Z European model just to kind of get an idea on total amount of precipitation from these next couple of systems. So this is just here really in the next 36 hours. All right, some places here, again, capable of picking up to 7 inches of liquid out of this particular first wave. Now that then moves some heavy snows into the Four Corner states. And then we go on a bit of a lull until about Friday into Saturday. There's another second wave. Do you see it coming in here to Southern California? But then the next big push is going to start right here. There's the 20th, 21st, 22nd. See that? So you add all that up together, and what we see over the next 10 days is the potential for just, almost catastrophic flooding coming out of California due to the setup of this. How much snow are we talking about? Again, my color bar is going to break down on us again because it only goes up to 40 inches. But as we just play this forward, we can see that the Sierra Nevada, most of it will be capable of picking up 3 to 5 feet of additional snow. Heavy snows in the upper Colorado Basin, which are currently at about 130% of average for the Colorado River. Heavy snows north of the Snake River Valley, even more adding up in the Cascades. Also note the snows that are coming out into parts of Montana. Remember, this was an area throughout much of winter we were missing major snows, and now we're starting to see more significant snowfall coming into that region. Okay, from here, I'm going to just jump coast because we've kind of painted the corners here with our high impact weather events. So let's come over here to New England, where there's still a large area of winter storm warnings with high wind advisories farther to the south. The National Digital Forecast Database, this morning's newest run, continues to show a pretty good swath in here of 8+ inches centered on the Hudson Valley. Some places may be capable of picking up more than that. The challenge will be as you get closer to the coast, do we just bring too much warm air in off the ocean to really produce that snow into that region? So if we just look at that and then how this system gets out into the plains, let's play the high-res NAM starting off at 7 a.m. this morning. So playing this through the day on Tuesday, notice the snow that's spreading into parts of Oregon, Idaho, and eventually into Montana as we watch the nor'easter finally exit, just sitting here and spinning off of Cape Cod. Of course, we've discussed already how much rain is expected into California. As we get into the overnight hours tonight and early on Wednesday morning, so let's stop this on Wednesday morning, snow spreading through parts of Montana, the system starting to take shape in the northern plains by Wednesday afternoon and evening. Heavy snows expected in parts of the Colorado Rockies with rain farther to the south in Arizona and New Mexico. And then we're going to see this system with its strong southerly winds on this side open up a nice warm sector that could potentially be leading to severe storms forming in this area on Thursday night. On the back side of it, we could get a pretty quick switch over to snow here, adding more snow to parts of the Central Plains into the upper Midwest. But just to point out, this is the new Day 3 outlook for severe storms put out by the Storm Prediction Center. This is valid on the 16th, or Thursday, and again, they're watching much of Texas, eastern Texas, into southeastern Oklahoma, into Arkansas and Louisiana for those strong to severe storms. Now, the northern side of this, we did see some snow, so let's go back to the National Digital Forecast Database. Notice out of Montana, again, this is just through Friday morning. We're looking at a decent 2 to 5 inch snowfall event here. Heavy snow coming over the Rockies here in Colorado. We're going to watch this swath right in through here, which is really going to put down its heaviest snows from parts of northern Wisconsin into the UP. So that's just through the next 3 days. From here, we'll just split up the models again and have a look at what they're forecasting because the model agreement's pretty good. We've already watched through Wednesday. Let's park this out here Thursday around 7 p.m. Now again, this is when we're going to keep an eye on the severe storms to the south, the heavier snow coming through the upper Midwest. But I want you to notice that the European model on the back side is more aggressive earlier with snows coming out of Colorado, New Mexico, and the panhandles here. The GFS is just a little bit later on Friday morning and Friday midday, but then that system clears through the east, possibly producing some snow in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. Snow along the northern side of this where there's going to be some really quite cold air that's going to follow the system, and then rain kind of up and down the eastern seaboard here. As we then play into Saturday and get out there into Sunday, models do not fully agree on the next wave. Remember the one that came through Southern California? Well, here it is. Not so much snow showing up in the GFS, but the European really has a lot of snow in the Four Corner states, and then eventually putting that snow into parts of western Texas. There's going to be some, like I said, some quite cold air coming with this high pressure cell, which you see in both models. But it is important to note that going into next Monday and Tuesday, they both bring in the next large system into the west. That's that second big impulse, a system that pulls into the southeast with some heavier rains into this area. And then you'll note a system back in the Midwestern United States by Thursday the 23rd. And where's it putting down snow? Where there's already snow. Where's it got the rain and severe storms? Where it's been. So a lot of consistency in the models. Let's break it down into 3 different maps here. This is the probability over the next 10 days of getting at least an inch of liquid out of this. And something I want to take note of is this area right in through here possibly adding some moisture. Notice how wet it'll be in the 4 corner states and out west, and how wet it'll be along the south. If we then look at who's going to be drier with this, it's mainly going to be the places getting less than 1/2 of an inch of total. It's going to be here in this kind of V-shaped area of the northern plains. There's moisture coming in here, okay, but we're just looking at who's going to be getting less than 1/2 inch. And finally, here's the snowfall forecast. Now this map shows you the probability of getting at least 3 inches. I'm not looking at it for New England or for the West Coast or the Intermountain West. I'm trying to pick up where the snow could possibly be in this region with these next couple of systems. So those 3 maps kind of distill that down. Let's go from there back to our all hazards weather map and focus now on what's going on throughout the Mid-South into the Southeast. National Weather Service did expand this area under which it's put down a freeze warning and the frost watch that's down here in parts of Georgia and South Carolina. The latest National Digital Forecast database showing locations with a potential frost threat is now shown here in gray. This is just where we could near that frost temperature or get below it. And if we take a look at the timing on when this cold air is going to be here, this is this morning's low. So again, this white line represents where we have the break at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. This is now into Wednesday, probably the greatest extent of where we're going to see those the coldest air in the southeast. But as we talked about, a large warm sector opens up with this system, and there it is. All right, but it's going to be quickly followed by much colder air Friday morning, getting into Saturday morning, and then getting into Sunday morning. And that's going to be our next big Arctic push when it comes to the development of that high pressure center on the backside. If we just do like we did yesterday and watch where these temperatures are going, remember, the colder air exits, there's the warm sector that opens up, but then a major shot at colder air coming in for the weekend. And the models just continue to keep that colder air anchored in the Canadian prairie in the west, coming out of the upper Midwest and northern plains all the way almost through the end of the month of March. And the new European weeklies reflect that. You continue to see them keeping a cold bias across North America throughout much of the rest of March and possibly into April. Now, before I talk about the precip, I do want to make a point that the newest CFS V2 isn't fully in agreement with that. You do note that April 4th to 10th, there's a suggestion of another big warm-up, which means this pattern isn't fully settled. So as we look at this, we need to understand that there will be some mild days that come in here. But we need to get out of this, Western Pacific MJO pattern. We need to get out of this very mild air that's throughout Russia and Europe. And we need to redistribute that colder air to really break away from this pattern. I do want to take note that continued planting delays are expected in the Delta, in the southeast. And we're going to see some very wet conditions, which overall are curing longer-term drought issues in this area, but preventing a lot of really field work throughout much of the Midwest. I was discouraged to see that the model did trend a bit drier in the plains, where we know a drought is anchored, but we do have better chances of moisture coming through here in the next 10 days, so we need to keep a close eye on this. All right. Finally, I just want to show you that this 3-month-long drought we've been dealing with, actually it goes a bit longer than that, in Argentina, is likely to start to get some relief. The latest European model followed the trends from the last few days with delivering better moisture into this area, knocking some of the heat out. The drier conditions here will be welcomed to get some harvest done, but still very wet in Mato Grosso do Sul and in Mato Grosso where that safrinha crop is planted. So we'll continue to watch this and monitor it and just present to you tomorrow what we see in terms of the new updates. Thanks for your attention. We'll talk soon.